I think we might as well get started on this beautiful sunny morning. Thank you for zooming in today with us. On behalf of the Sandbox Center team, welcome to our Experts in Residence session, Communications and Creativity. For those who haven't been acquainted with me or the Sandbox, my name is Mackenzie. I'm one of the 6 members of the team. The Sandbox is located downtown Barrie and online to connect people and their ideas to business resources so that they can create a better life through business. If you haven't yet attended one of our EIR sessions before, we're happy to have you with us today. Across a wide variety of different expertise, we're offering free expert advice to all businesses from month to month. So if you're interested in learning more about what our Experts in Residence program has to offer, feel free to head over to our website, sandboxcenter.com, after this session and check it out just under the Programs tab. Today, we're thrilled to have expert Jan Bailey of Ovation Speaker Training join us. Ovation workshops are highly interactive online and in person, and Jan has helped countless individuals transform their ability to connect to their audience and deliver authentic and meaningful messages with impact. Today, Jan is here to talk to us about clarity, something I know we're all struggling to find and create over the past year, so I'm super excited for this topic. Jan is going to show us how to recalibrate your clarity meter, which I'm in need of, access inspiration with a simple tool, and take tangible steps toward delivering your message in your own voice. We know some of the attendees today have pre-submitted some questions, but for those who may have some questions pop across their mind throughout the session, please don't be shy. Use the Q&A feature or the chat, and we'll be sure to monitor throughout, and we'll try to get to answering as many of your questions as possible towards the end of the session. And just a quick thank you to all of our community partners for supporting with the sharing of our events. And of course, a huge thank you to Ovation for being here today with us. So without further ado, please welcome Jan Bailey to get us started. Over to you, Jan. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Mackenzie. It's been so long since I've seen you. It's so exciting to actually see you in person. We're just calling this in person now. That's just kind of the way it goes. Yeah. So yeah, it's all great. I'm really glad to be here, and I feel a little bit like whenever I do one of these, I feel as though I should invite you all. Welcome to my office, right? I feel a bit like I've opened the door and you've all come into my home office, which is quite fun because and I know that you're all kind of looking around me right now, right, checking out my office. So I haven't got any books out that I should have left some things that were interesting for you to watch behind me just in case. But anyway, I do appreciate you all joining me here this morning on a fabulous spring day. It is quite spectacular, and I am very happy to be here because the Sandbox, even though we're not allowed to go there, Sandbox right now has so many resources that are available to all of us, and it really is so great to be able to have such a fabulous resource here locally, and of course now, well, we've got it internationally, don't we? So welcome. I was laughing at Mackenzie this morning. I've got, in case suddenly my alligator clip pops off my sweater, I was wiping something off my shirt this morning that I saw in the mirror before I began, and it was all wet. So I thought, I'll just clip my sweater together. So if suddenly my alligator clip pops off, you'll all know what happened. I know. Welcome to the home office world. So we're going to talk today about clarity. Yes, clarity and speaking your truth, or how clarity relates to your message and speaking your message. And I'm really excited about it because, as you all know, and as Mackenzie said right off the top, so many of us have got to this place where we're thinking about clarity. Gosh, if I could just get clear about what I wanted to do, if I could just get clear about how I want to show up in this new marketplace, if I could just get clear about my online messaging, whatever it is that you're doing, we're all kind of in a perpetual state of transition right now. So we're all looking for this notion of clarity. And you might be asking yourself, if you've been to one of my Ovation webinars before, I'm always, of course, talking about speaking. And so how does clarity have anything to do with speaking? Well, I've been doing this for a long time. And what I really noticed with people on stage, and when I say stage, I mean, whether it's on camera or whether it's on an actual stage or in a boardroom, it doesn't really matter. If you're presenting in front of other people, it's public speaking. So when I look at people on stage and I watched, because everybody has a speaking story, right? You know what I mean? We've all got some kind of, oh gosh, I remember in Mr. Dixon's grade 5 class, or in that boardroom that time I delivered that presentation. We've all got a speaking story. And usually yeah, I know, it's not great sometimes. And so we have to get past those things if we want to improve. So what I noticed as a trainer was that the people who seemed to be able to get past their old story the fastest were the people who were clear. And when I say clear, I mean, they were clear not only about what it was that they wanted to talk about or what their message was, but they were clear about who they were as well and who they were on stage. So there was a natural, let's call it a comfort, right? There was a natural comfort when they stood up, that they felt comfortable maybe in their own skin, is a good way to say it. So I watched that process as people go through speaker training, and I think, okay, there really is something to this. So let's help people figure out how to be a little bit more clear about not only what they're saying, but about how they're saying it and how they want to be perceived when they're saying it. So those are the things that we're going to talk a little bit, well, not a little bit, a lot about today. And I'd like to give you some very concrete tools about how to do that, because when you're solid or aligned, or those are the two best words that I can think of, with who you are and how you want to present yourself to the world, right? How you want to show up, then it just becomes a lot easier to speak whatever message that is. And I remember I was thinking about this as I was planning for this webinar, and I remember hearing a million years ago a story about Maya Angelou. And Maya Angelou, those of you who don't know her, is an author and a poet. She's now passed away, but and very, very wise woman, really, is how I think of her. And she told a story about hosting a party in her home. And at this party, someone, I'm sure it was a big gathering with many, many people who were very famous. And she's was a very good friend of Oprah's, so Oprah was probably there. Anyway, so she's telling this story about she was wandering around the party, just chit-chatting and making people comfortable and doing what one does as a host. And she overheard a man telling a joke. And she just, as you do as you're walking by, she sort of tuned into this peripherally and heard him talking about a joke that she didn't feel was appropriate. And it had some undertones that she didn't think were appropriate in a party and didn't align with how she wanted to be in the world and how she wanted other people to perceive her. So she actually went over to the fellow, and you have to picture this, right? Picture this in a party situation. She went over to the fellow and she asked him to leave. And I thought to myself, wow, first, would I have the courage to do that? Are my convictions that strong? Am I that clear about myself and what I stand for and who I am and how I want to be perceived, that I could walk up to someone and say, I don't think that that's appropriate for this group and for the tone that I want to have here in my home. I would ask you to leave, please. And I thought, that is amazing. And if we could all be that clear and that aligned, wouldn't that be cool? So let's practice that a little bit today. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is that for most of us, and this is everybody, I think, we think of clarity as one big decision. Okay, let me say that again. We think of clarity as one big decision. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that when I graduate from university, then my life will start. Oh, when I get married, then my life will start. Oh, when I launch my career, then my life will start, right? Then I will be clear. Then I will move forward. Does that sound familiar to anyone? Yeah, we all do that. And I think it's got a lot to do with the way we set society up, but really it is that. It's this notion of, I have to get here and then I'll get started. Oh, now I have to get here. Oh, now I have to get here, right? And it's sort of these destination focused moments of clarity. And I know you know what I'm talking about. Maybe you've got some of those moments in your life that you're waiting, right? You're waiting to get to that destination. And you feel like, when I get there, then I will be clear. Well, in case you haven't guessed it, in case you haven't figured it out, I'm here to tell you today, yeah, it doesn't really work like that. clarity is a process, right? And the clearer you get about who you are, the clearer you are about the decisions that you want to make. So I'm going to try, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to try this. I'm going to have to work with the light a little bit here. So this is you. Okay, this is you. You, when you were born, you came to the planet, and you were this fabulously clear vase, right? This is your clear, clean perspective, and you were wide open, and the world was your oyster, I believe is how that goes. And then what happened? Well, I'll show you what happened. So you started to move about the world, and you had maybe some of the lessons that your mother and your father taught you, and those lessons kind of went into your vase. Yeah, they were that color. And then you had this other series of, maybe these were the friends that you had at school, right? And they started to shift your perspective a little bit. Okay, and then maybe here's someone else. These are the green folks, and these are perhaps your teachers, or maybe your boss, or maybe your who else influences you? Maybe it was a sports coach of some kind, right? And then these are this kind of a vague yellow belief systems here and attitudes. And what happens is, are you starting to see this? So by the time you get to be 10, 15, 30, 50, I don't know, you've got all of these influences, all of these different belief systems, and now you're trying to see through that perspective. All of a sudden, it's not so clear, is it? Because all of your belief systems, all of your ideas about you are now clouded. Clouded is probably a good word, or colored, maybe is a good word, by all of these other attitudes and belief systems of the people around you. So what does that do? Well, it makes you second guess yourself, right? And gee, have any of you done that? Okay, because it's natural, right? We think, well, at one time I was totally clear. I knew exactly what I wanted, but that time feels so long ago, because now you think about, oh, okay, well, what would my boss think? Well, what would my partner think? Well, what would my parents think? Well, and all of a sudden clarity gets to feel a little bit elusive, because you can't see through that anymore. Does that make sense? So it's almost like you need to think of yourself as a filter, right? You're trying to look through all of these other people's lenses as you try and figure out what you want, and it gets to be a bit of a challenge. So what I'm here to teach you today and help you figure out, or remember is a better way to say it, to help you remember, is that clarity is actually a feeling. Right? Yeah, clarity is actually a feeling, and you have just forgotten what it feels like because your life has gotten so colored, right? You've got all of these different filters in front of you. So we're gonna practice this. This is going to be an interactive webinar today. So you're all in the privacy of your own home office or your own office, wherever you are today, and watching this. So you get to speak out loud, you get to stand up if you want to, however you need to experience this. So we're going to practice. And what I'd like you to do is, most of us are quite disconnected at the neck, right? Right. And what I mean by that is, we live our lives up here in our heads a little bit, and we really don't pay much attention to what we're physically feeling or what we're emotionally feeling sometimes. And so part of this exercise today is to try and connect this to this, so that you can connect to your inner guidance system, because we've all got one. We've just forgotten how to use it. So clarity is about it's about your barometer, right? It's about setting the stage. It's your path to yes. And imagine if you knew every decision you had to make, you went, yes, that's right, or yes, that's right, or no, and you were that clear. Imagine how easily, seamlessly you would navigate through your life if you could just check in and go, oh yeah, that feels right. Oh yeah, that feels right. How cool would that be? Okay, so I'm assuming you're sitting. Relax. Take a nice big breath. Okay. Just feel just for a second, just because remember, I told you we're trying to connect this to this. Feel your feet. Yeah. Feel your feet on the floor. Wiggle your toes a little bit. There's nobody around. You can do this. Okay, just so you're connected into your body. Now, here's what I'm going to ask you to imagine something. Okay, I'm going to ask you to imagine something. And when you imagine it, I'm going to ask you then to connect and see if do you feel anything physically while you're imagining it. Okay, just so you know what we're about to do. Ready? So nice big breath, and you can close your eyes if you want. That's great, or not. And I would just like you, for just 1 minute, I want you to think about your favorite color. Now, spring is just about to spring, and maybe it's a tulip color, and you're imagining this vibrant, fabulous yellow. Sorry, I shouldn't influence you. Whatever your favorite color is, okay? And I want you to feel like you're surrounded by that color, and it's everywhere, and it's bright, and you can feel it, and it's in you, it's around you, you're surrounded by a field of those colorful tulips, however you need to think about it. And I want you now, little smile on your face, to think about, okay, how does my body feel? What's going on? Is there anything happening there? Do I feel, maybe it's a warmth? Do I feel like a little buzzing feeling? Do I feel lighter? Do I feel just like I'm surrounded by light? I don't know, something. There's something going on, I guarantee it. Okay, so feel that for a second. Now, got it? Remember that feeling. We'll try it a couple times. Remember that feeling. Now, I want you to think about, oh, I hate that color. I don't like that other color. Think about the opposite of that. What is your least favorite color? You never wear it. You never buy it. You never even buy a book that is that color because you don't like it. You don't eat food that's that color because it is just so repulsive to you. Imagine that color. See that color. Be surrounded by that color. How does it feel? How does it feel in your body? I guarantee you it feels different, doesn't it? Do you feel the difference? Okay, now it might be subtle. Trust me, trust me. I wish that a clear decision was neon signs and bells and whistles that said, Jan, this way, this way, this way. But it doesn't usually work that way. It can be a very subtle difference, but it's something that you can practice. Okay, let's try it one more time really quickly. Imagine maybe it's a person or maybe it's your pet, someone who you absolutely love. Oh my gosh, someone who makes you laugh and smile, and someone who just every time, that's why I think dogs, every time you walk up, they're happy to see you, you're happy to see them. What does that feel like? Feel that? I sort of do this around my midsection because that's where I feel it, right? I feel it, it's sort of in my gut. Okay, got it? Remember that feeling? Now, oh, someone who annoys you. Oh, that person. Oh, that thing. Oh, that neighbor's, I don't know, annoying cat, whatever it is. Feel the difference. Okay, so clarity, you're back, that open, warm, light feeling, that's what clarity feels like. Okay, that's what clarity feels like. Now you just have to practice it. Okay, so that's great, Jan. Okay, so now you've got a foundation, you've got an idea of, okay, this is what clarity feels like. Now what do we do? Okay, well, hang on to that. We're going to build on this a little bit. So try and remember that feeling. Try and remember that lightness. That's how I describe it. Maybe you can put in the chat how you feel it, right? Because it really is different for everyone. And that's the key, is you've got to figure out what is clarity for you, because it is your yes. Okay, it is your yes feeling. When the decision is right, when the opportunity is correct, when the message is just you, that's your yes. Okay, so you have to remember to think about it that way. So now if you think about how we use that, well, that's great, Jen, but I still don't really know what my message is. How do I get some inspiration? How can I move forward with that decision-making process? Well, here's how we do this. It's about, and this is a very simple exercise, deceptively simple, actually. It's about asking the right questions. Okay, so here's an example. Let me think about this for a second. So here's the right question. So say, for example, I don't know about you, but I've got a teenage son. I'm sure many of you have children or who are always late in the morning. And I only have one. I don't understand how people do it with 3 children. It's nutty for me. How do you get people out the door in the morning with such chaos? So maybe it's your wife, maybe it's your husband, maybe it's your partner, but there's chaos surrounding that. And so here's what I hear in the morning. I hear, oh my God, how do I get out? Everything is a wreck. I've got to make my bed. Where's my lunch? I can't find my school book. I don't know where my socks are. Mom, are there any clean socks? Does any of this sound familiar to any of you? Yeah, okay. So in that kind of a rant mode, right? Don't worry, I'm going to shift this to business in a second, but I just want you to feel this in a personal way as well. So in that rant mode, that's what I'm calling that. Oh, this kind of mode, right? Yeah, we all know it. In that rant mode, how do I help my son? I just kind of stand there and I sort of get caught up in it and I run around handing socks and lunch bags and whatever. But if he would just say, instead of, oh my God, how do I, what would it take to get out the door on time in the morning? What would it take? That's the key, to get out the door on time in the morning. Well, now what can we do? Now we can make a plan. Now we can be clear about the steps to do that, right? There is a process. I go, oh, okay, well, the first thing we need to do is X, right? So now let's think about this with your business. How many, well, yeah, your business life. How many of you ever have those moments of, oh, I can't get enough clients and I don't know how to get clients and why isn't my marketing working and how do I connect with more people and social media, I have to post how many more times a day and then you think to yourself, why am I not getting any inspiration? Why am I not getting any ideas? Why can't I be clear about what's coming to me, right? Why are there no ideas going bing into my head? Well, where in that rant, where in that, oh my God feeling is there room for inspiration? So you might want to write this down. Here's what you need to do. What would it take to get more clients? Pause. What would it take to be more creative at marketing? Pause. What would it take? Are you getting this? So the key is one question, no rant, calms everybody down. What would it take to, and then ask your question, and now just sit there and wait. This is the tricky part, okay? Pause, breathe, and wait for some inspiration. I guarantee you it will come. Now, you have to be quiet enough to hear it, right? But now that you've got this notion of clarity and feeling the connection between your brain and your body, you're going to be much better at what would it take to, and it might be something general, like what would it take to make more money? What would it take to have a better relationship with my son, daughter, children? Okay, pause, wait, breathe. Now, the breathing part is important. You might not get an answer immediately, but you're setting yourself up for that practice, because remember, clarity is not one big decision. Clarity is a process. Clarity is a practice. Clarity is it's a skill set. It's something that you need to work on. And so if you begin to get in the habit of calming yourself down, going, oh no, I'm doing that thing, right? I'm doing that wound up thing, that rant. And you ask yourself, what would it take to fill in the blank? And then you wait. Maybe you might want to start your day that way. What would it take to have a great day? Why not? Try it. Give it a go. It's spring. Why not? Okay. So give that a try. Give that a go. And I guarantee you that with some practice and with some quiet, right, that you will in fact find some inspiration. Okay, it's quite remarkable, actually. It's quite remarkable. So give that a try. And that's that feeling of my next yes, because now I know what it feels like, and now I can find the inspiration to get there. Okay, does that make sense? So you're going to practice feeling what clarity feels like, that yes, no, yes, this is clear, or yes, this is my clear yes, rather, or not so much. Now you're going to be able to find some inspiration, whatever it is. Trust me, it takes practice. You just have to remember that question. What would it take to, okay? And now, what's next? Okay, well, first I have to tell you a story. This is how elusive clarity can be. Because I know you and I, we're all we're all in the same boat, right? We're all looking to insert ourselves in a new marketplace. We're all looking to, our relationships have changed, our personal relationships have changed because of the way we're having to work. Our work has changed, our work relationships have changed. It really doesn't feel like much is stable, and it's really, right, we're all feeling a bit, am I right? We're all feeling a bit off balance. And so just like you, this time last year, I was in this motion of oh my gosh, right? All of my clients are done. I used to travel and internationally and do speaker training. Well, that was done, right? That was absolutely finished. Nobody was getting on a plane, and that was finished. My local clients were all going like this because everyone was changing and not knowing what was coming. No different than any of the rest of you, right? You were looking at your business and thinking, oh, now what? So we got into this pivot. The word pivot crept into our vernacular, and everybody says, oh, I gotta pivot. Okay, pivot. And I'm thinking, pivot, what direction? What do I do? This is what I love to do. This is what I'm good at. This is what my skill set is. I love being in front of a classroom, and I love watching people on stage and helping them. And this is what I do. And how do I pivot? How do I pivot? Oh, and in a moment of clarity, when I said to myself, what would it take to, right, to stay in my industry, but to make a viable shift, right? I said to myself, I had this bing, oh, everyone's on Zoom. Everyone's Microsoft Teams. Everyone's now staring at a camera. I used to work in television. I have some skills around that. I could help people do that. Well, so the point is not to illustrate how ridiculously stunned I was in the moment, though that is very true. The point is for me to say that, to show you or to demonstrate in my own life that sometimes the solution is, oh my gosh, it's so obvious, but we're so busy doing this, what do I, that we don't take the moment to hear the next step, to pay attention to what our inner guidance system, our inner compass is telling us. Really, it couldn't have been more obvious for me. And yet here I was sort of frantically flitting about. So there you go. That's my embarrassing kind of ridiculous story. But just to really illustrate that it's about, okay, Jan, ask the right questions and pay attention to the feeling. Okay, does that make sense? I hope that makes sense too, because I'm sharing my embarrassing moments with you. Anyway, so now you know what your yes is. You understand how to ask, in essence, ask for inspiration, ask for clarity, okay? You know how to do that. Now, how does that translate into the Maya Angelou story, to speaking your truth, to showing up in yourself, right? To being able to talk about how you want to be represented in the world, because really that's speaker training and public speaking. Remember, anytime you're speaking to even one person, as public speaking, right? And we all have to be clear about who we are as we do that, as we move through the world, right? Especially in business, especially if you happen to be selling something, or you happen to be, well, no, you don't have to be selling something. You're just representing yourself in the world. So how do we do that? Well, there are some strategies and some concrete strategies to do that. And remember back at the beginning when we first started talking, and I said to you, what was so amazing to me when I watched people on stage is that those people that were the most clear about who they were and who they wanted to be and how they wanted to be represented and how they wanted to represent themselves, they were by far the fastest learners, if you will, that got the most comfortable presenting themselves in front of any kind of audience. So that's the stage of this 3-step process that we're at, is that communicating yourself. Okay. Now, obviously there are some fundamentals, and some fundamentals, whether you're speaking in front of a camera or you're speaking live, doesn't matter, or presenting live. But what I want to talk a little bit about is not so much that, but it's a little bit about, well, a lot about really your value. Okay. So let's start with that. Your value. When I say that to you, does anybody get a little uncomfortable? Does anybody start to feel a little bit weird when I say, what's your value? What value do you bring to the world? What value do you bring to your business? What value do you bring to your family, to your relationship? Does that make you feel a bit weird? Yeah, I hear you. Okay. Why? Why does it? Because most of us, maybe all of us, take for granted what we do, right? It's just normal. This is me. This is what I do. This is what I'm good at. And so, but what you find familiar, or what you find common or second nature, however you want to think of it, other people find fascinating. Other people maybe find it amazing. Right? So say, for example, I'll use myself as an example to begin, right? People will say to me, well, Jan, you're so comfortable on camera, and to me, that's just normal. Okay, well, yeah, this is what you do. And other people think, well, no, it's not normal. Familiar is a better word. It's not familiar to them at all. It's why I couldn't understand or couldn't realize that my natural pivot was to pivot on and help people with this on-camera business, because I thought of my skill set, of my value. I didn't value it, right? I didn't value it because, oh, can't everybody do that? So think about your value. Maybe do that right now. Maybe you're a salesperson. Well, trust me, I value you. I value you if you're really good at that, getting to know people and building relationships, and a good, strong ask, and a clear outcome in your mind, and confident in what you're asking for and what you're selling and what you want, and getting people to sign on the proverbial dotted line. Whoa, I value you. But do you? Because you probably think, whoa, everybody can do that. Well, let me be the one to tell you, not so much. No, they can't. Maybe you're an accountant, okay? I love you if you're an accountant. Your brain is so fabulous, right? It's A to B to C. Just so you know, my brain is not A to B. My brain A to L and then back down J, and right? Drives my husband nuts. But accountants, you're generally linear thinkers. Everything makes sense. It's organized. It's clean. It's clear. I value you. But do you? That's the fundamental question. So I know lots of people right now are using the word superpower, right? What's your superpower? I think that's fun. I like it, because my son always asks me, would you have telekinesis, or would you be invisible? I don't know. So your superpower, your value, really, really think about it, okay? Really think about it, because it anchors you, and it helps you think about what makes you engaging, what makes you fascinating, what makes you interesting. And now it helps you present yourself. Okay. So here's how that does that. Interestingly, okay, we're going to try a little exercise here in a minute, but I am going to tell you a story first about, which amazes me nonetheless. So I was watching, this is back now that we're all online, and I'm watching, same as you, right? Watching webinars and learning things from all kinds of different experts in different fields. And I was watching a marketing webinar, and the man who was teaching it was clearly an expert in his field, unbelievably, but he was one of those guys who talked about 1,000,000 miles an hour, and he just was really energetic and really liked, and he did this, and he was really fast, and I was, and he right, one of those guys, and made me, because I used to think that I spoke quickly, made me look like a in slow motion. And so I watched this webinar, and he was really good, and his message was really great, and it was clear, and it made sense, and all of those great things. And then later that day, I was actually recording a video for something, and so I stood in front of I had all my lighting and everything done, and it was all exciting, and I recorded this video, and then I watched the playback, and I thought, who was that? Who's that woman? Well, you know what happened is I was him. I was the female version of him on my video. And here I was. And then I go, and by the end of it, I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't believe anything that I said. Remember, I'm watching me now. I didn't believe anything that I said. It didn't come across as authentic. I wasn't clear because I was emulating him. Now, I don't know that I did it consciously because I'm pretty comfortable doing this, but I thought, oh my goodness, here I am thinking I'm solid in my public speaking, my presenting strategies or my presenting style, and here I am pretending to be this guy. It was a really interesting lesson for me. So I'm asking you, now that you know what clarity feels like, now that you have a better sense of your direction and how you want to go by asking the right questions, now how do you find you? Because so many of us watch people that we admire, right? We all do. This is normal. We're a mentor. Mentors are spectacular, but a mentorship of any kind doesn't mean you try to be them, right? Remember, value you, and then present yourself from that place. Okay, does that make sense? We'll come back to it in a minute. So I would like, we're going to try a little exercise here. So in the chat, I'm hoping it's still there, and if it's not, Mackenzie will come back on and help me, I'm sure. But I put a sentence into the chat, probably at the beginning of the chat, and it says, I love that it's spring. Here I'm reading from my cue card. I love that it's spring and the robin, oh, there it is. Thank you, Mackenzie. I love that it's spring and the robins are back. Okay, so this is the interactive portion of the show. Okay, this is very interactive. Now, although I can't hear you, I will trust that you all are actually doing this. So remember, here's what we're trying to do. We're trying to figure out who you are. Okay, we're trying to figure out your persona, your personality. Now, here's what happens before we try this. We all have, remember earlier I talked a little bit about, I'm a speaker trainer, we talked about accountants, we talked about salespeople. There are some pretty strong stereotypes attached to many industries, right? And if I said to you, be a politician, if we were actors, and I said, okay, be a politician, be a runway model, be an accountant, be an engineer. Well, you adopt a certain something, right? Why? Because there's a stereotype attached to that industry, to that profession. Now, obviously, they're not always true, but they're often quite strong. And I'll tell you what I'm thinking. So one time, I better look at the time. Okay, we're doing good. One time I was working with a young man, and he was very dynamic, and he's an athlete, and he was an engineer. He was an athlete, a very high level athlete, and he was very confident, and he was very engaging, and he had this beautiful smile. When he smiled, his whole face lit up, and he was just really a dynamic and engaging fellow. And then he would get on the stage, and he did this. Hello, my name is, obviously this isn't what he was saying, and this is what I'm going to talk about today. And he was this unusually stiff fellow, and his hands were right by his sides, no gestures, no smiling, no anything, okay? And so I watched this a few times, and then I finally said to him, does that take a lot of energy? And he said, what do you mean? And I said, well, does it take an awful lot of energy to stand that still on stage and not move at all while you're talking? I think it's a 10-minute speech, to not move for 10 minutes. And he said, oh my gosh, yes, it's exhausting. And I said, well, why in heaven's name do you do that? And he said, well, because that's what I'm supposed to do. And I said, okay, pardon, why? He said, well, I had a mentor, boss, who said to me that this is what engineers do. The facts speak. The PowerPoint speaks. The research speaks. The research and the facts are dynamic. I'm not. So he would stand like this and deliver this really boring talk and forget his personality completely, because he was becoming what he thought engineer meant. Okay, now Cam, I know you're watching this, and I know you're an engineer, right? So be careful of that, or careful is the wrong word, be aware of that. So the point of the story is that once I gave him permission to say, be you on stage, be you when you present, he was able to at least start to gesture a little bit, to loosen up, to smile, to engage. And that's what I'm looking for. Okay, so sentence. Here's what you're going to do. I would like you all, because you're sitting in the privacy of your own home, read the sentence, okay? I'm not going to read it. I'll read it afterward, but I want you just to read aloud, please. I want you to read that sentence. Should take you, what, 4 seconds? Okay, good, nice. Do it again. Now say it differently, please. Differently, not the same as you just did. Say it different. Go for it. Excellent. Okay, do it again. Different, totally different. How you doing? Is it getting harder? We've only done it 3 times. Is it getting harder to be different every time? Yeah. Why? Why is it getting harder? Because you have created a stereotype, you have created a pattern, you have created a box for yourself, right? When you present. So this is a spectacular strategy to test drive how you want to sound. So you might say, I love that it's spring and the robins are back. Okay. Oh, I love that it's spring and the robins are back. I love that it's spring and the robins are back. Okay. Oh, I love that it's spring and the robins are back. So do you see what I'm doing? And this is what I'm asking you to do. Anytime you have a presentation, anytime you are in front of people or practicing something, try this exercise. It's brilliant because not only do you begin to hear the way you traditionally present things, we've all got a rhythm, we've all got inflections, right? We've all got a pattern. You can start to shake it up a little bit. Okay, now how do you do that? Well, different emotion, right? I love wistful and thoughtful, right? Or try for the heck of it, try angry and oh, I love that it's spring. Yeah, and the robins are back. Try it, why not? Try it. So try different emotions, try different pace, okay? Faster, slower, pause in different spots. Put the inflection on a different syllable, right? Hit, I love that it's spring, or I love that it's spring, right? Hit different words in the sentence. So these are all different ways that you can test drive you. Test drive different ways of being, different ways of presenting yourself and representing yourself, okay? And in that, you get to figure out what feels, back to the beginning, what feels like you. Okay, does this all make sense? Okay, does this all make sense? So let's do a quick review. You now have 3 fabulous tools. Okay, you have 3 fabulous tools. The first one is going to take, well, they're all going to take a little practice, but the first one is how to feel clarity. Okay, remembering that it's a feeling. So it's like positive, negative, yes, no, clear, murky. Practice remembering, practice uncovering, practice connecting to that feeling. Okay. Second is calm down. Okay. Get out of the spin and ask yourself, what would it take to, and narrow that question, write down and pause and wait. I know you might get frustrated off the top because we want answers immediately, but it will come. Pause and wait. And again, it's a practice. Clarity is a process. So that's the second tool. And the third one is learning to incorporate those 2 things into who you are when you present, and feeling like, you know what? I know who I am. I know what my message is. I know what is important to me. I know what my value is. And I am clear in all of those things. And here I am. Man, that's a great feeling. So that is the third. And you can practice that just with a lovely little sentence, shaking that up and sort of trying on different personalities. Okay, does that make sense? So today is your goal. Today, I'm going to offer you a goal for the day, or a challenge, whatever, however you want to think of it, is while you're going about your day, decisions have to be made, from what should I have for lunch to do I answer this email, a project, it's work, it's whatever it is. I would like you to pause. So the decision, we know the decision in our head that has to be made. Pause. Good. Say it in your head or aloud, whichever you prefer. Feel, connect, see if you can feel clear about the decision. Move forward. Okay, so that is your goal for today, is to begin to practice, or begin the practice of clarity on your way to speaking your truth. This has been fabulous. I have really enjoyed this. I hope that you all have got something out of it. And I think we've got some questions. And so good heavens, it's already 10 to 11. Mackenzie, welcome back.
You nailed it. Thank you so much, Jan. Those tips and tools were incredible. I mean, I feel like I could have obviously like known to do those things, but now that I'm so aware, like Samantha actually made some really good comments in the chat where saying open-ended questions are extremely effective for provoking big picture thinking. And I totally agree. Like I find I easily forget to just take a second and ask myself those open-ended questions, so then I can move forward, because I'm so like you, like like I need to just do all the things, but I need to remember to just focus on one thing at a time and ask myself those open-ended questions to think bigger, which is so helpful.
Well, and I think that it's that even though the question is open-ended, we're looking for one single answer. Right? So that's the difference. It's slightly, so blue sky is one thing, but to be able to say, it's almost like you're saying, what is the first step?
Totally.
Right? Yeah. Excellent.
Awesome. Well, we have a couple questions here that we might have time for. So somebody's asking, they say, I believe in delivering clear messages to all level of teams, as well as being vulnerable and open with my team, but would love some insight on how to handle messaging where it isn't appropriate to share certain information. It can be difficult to have to share something while keeping some of the information confidential.
Yes, it is very difficult. It is very difficult. And I would say to you that we go right back to who am I, right? Who am I and what is my role in this? And am I clear about, am I the person who is casting the vision and gets to talk about everything from beginning to middle to end? Or am I the person who is setting the tone, right? Am I the person, excuse me, who is maybe setting the tone for the project to come? And so that, I think, helps us figure out about our role in it, and whether we are able or allowed, as you know what I mean, allowed to give up all of that information. So think about what your role is in it. And it might not be the bringer of all news. It's just, I'm the person who's going to generate some excitement. I'm the person who's going to get some curiosity started. I'm the person who's going to get buy-in. I'm the person, and if I'm that person, we don't need to give all of the details, because sometimes too much information is a bad thing, right? A confused mind does nothing. So I think we have a tendency to want to give all, but really think about, well, what can I give to generate the buy-in, to generate the excitement, to generate the curiosity about this project, and maybe think about it in that way so that you're clear on who you are and what your role is. Yeah, I hope that helps.
Totally. There's a similar question around team meetings. Somebody's asking, are there strategies of presenting differing opinions to expand the thought process rather than appearing to challenge the message? I find it difficult to share differing strategies in larger team meetings where speaking time is limited based on the number of attendees. I've seen examples of the wrong message being communicated because the right input was not received by the communicator. Tips on this would be appreciated.
That's a very large question. Okay, well, I would say to you, one of the challenges in large team meetings for sure is time, of course. The other challenge is that many of us go into team meetings wanting to be heard, right? So then what happens is when the facilitator, if that's who this person is, when the facilitator or the chair says, well, does anyone have any questions or thoughts or input? Well, now there's all of this coming at you. And now the meeting, our 1 hour meeting is now a 3 hour meeting, which is really not good. So I think that the first thing that I would do is let's set a strategy at the beginning for being able to add input. So maybe that's an email, or we do a group chat afterward or something like that, so that we set a tone for how to get all that extra information out. And then what I would say to you is that it's really the leader, and we've talked about this before in webinars, the leader, if that's who you are, needs to speak last. Because what happens is if you're looking for ideas, and if you're looking for ideas on messaging, and you're looking for blue sky kind of strategy, then if the leader offers their opinion first, it has a tendency to temper everyone else's ideas and everyone else's answers. So it's really important that as a chair or as a leader, that we remind people what the vision or the goal is. So, okay, remember, we're just trying to generate some ideas here today, or remember, we're looking for ways to present our message. So just try and keep people clear on what the objective is. And that is absolutely your job as the chair or as the leader. Then on the back end, now you can share your opinion. Okay, does that, hopefully that helps. But I think the question really is important. Okay, let's remember what we're doing here. Let's remember what we're doing here. What are we trying to achieve? Whether it's a feeling that we're looking for, because I know as speakers, we think, this is my audience. When my audience leaves today, what do I want them to know? And what do I want them to feel? Okay, and so even as a leader in a corporation, think about that. What is the objective here? And always bring people back to that before you offer your opinion.
Perfect.
That's clarity.
And somebody's asking, what is a good rule to follow to deliver short yet engaging messaging for a promotion or a product?
A rule. What is a good rule to follow? Okay, well, kind of what I just said. What do you want your audience to feel? Because please don't kid yourself. We make decisions, whether you're buying a shirt or whether you're ordering dinner or whether you're setting up a marketing strategy. We make decisions based on emotion. We make decisions based on how does this make me feel, okay? And when we're clear on that feeling, what you want your audience to feel, then it gets a whole lot easier to deliver the message. Remember, there's a big difference between what do I want to tell my audience and what does my audience want to hear? Okay, do you hear the difference in those? It's very different, right? And so if you begin with what you want your audience to feel, then it gets a whole lot easier to craft your message to get that result.
Right, that's perfect. Thank you. I think we have time for one last question here. Somebody's asking, I always wondered how to deliver clear message without having to take a long time and not use repeated words. Do you have any tip for this?
You know, one of the things that, and I mean this in the nicest way, we all think that what we have to say is fantastically important and interesting and engaging. But what our audiences, they're very busy people, right? They've got lives and they're hungry and they've got grocery lists and they've got children and they've got jobs and they've got partners, blah, 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 right? Goes on and on and on and on. And so, and they've got the attention span of less than a goldfish. So no disrespect. What I'm saying is sometimes a little repetition is not a bad thing, right? Because I might say something that made you think about this and you went off on a little mental vacation, and then you come back a couple of seconds later and you've missed what I've continued to talk about. So if I regroup and summarize and regroup and summarize, then I'm always keeping my audience on track. Now that's easy if I'm doing a half hour or an hour long webinar, I can summarize along the way. But if you're doing a very short presentation, you want to craft that very carefully so that there's a little bit of repetition in there so that people, again, are clear on what you want, clear on how they should feel, and clear on what they should now do, right? You want your audience to do something. So again, don't beat yourself up if you're repeating a little bit, but just be clear on what you want them to feel on the back end or do.
Absolutely. That's super helpful. Well, Jan, thank you so much for being here virtually with us today. It was so nice to have you back.
It was fabulous to be here. I really enjoyed this, and I'm so glad that you all came this morning and practice clarity.
I can't wait. I can't wait to practice that. It's on my to-do list for today. Thank you everybody for joining us. I really appreciate it. Like I mentioned before, our experts in residence sessions vary from month to month. So feel free to check out our website across many different topics. At the end of the month, we actually have guests from Grant Thornton, speaking of accountants earlier, guiding an EIR session on revenue generation strategies, which is, you're not going to want to miss out on. It's a really, really good session. So feel free to go check it out at sandboxcenter.com or follow us on social at Sandbox Center for any updates on all upcoming events. I hope you enjoy this beautiful day if you can, and we hope to see you next time. Thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you later.
See ya.